Good morning, class, and welcome to day 2 of summer school. So I want to first start by recapping what we learned yesterday and then kind of move into what we're learning today. Today we're going to deal with something called adding and subtracting polynomials. But to start off with, let's recap what we learned yesterday. Yesterday we were introduced to this idea of like terms, where like terms are any variables, any combination of coefficient, variable, and exponent where the variable and the exponent match. Examples of like terms would be, one example of a like term would be, say we have 3x squared y. An example of a like term would be 5x squared y. All right. I notice that the x and y's both match, the exponents in both match. I got a 2 and a 1. So these are like terms. An example of an unlike term would be 3x squared y and 3x squared. Notice that yes, the x matches, the exponent on the x matches, you got x squared and x squared, but there's no y over here. So that's what you're missing a y. This is unlike terms. You cannot combine these, but these you can combine. All right? So really important that you guys understand what like terms are and that you can manipulate like terms by combining them. It's going to be really important as we move into today's lesson. As I mentioned earlier, today's lesson deals with something called adding and subtracting polynomials. Now, anytime we are dealing with polynomials, we're talking about some combination of terms where it's, say, an example of a polynomial could be 3x to the cubed plus 4x squared plus 2. Anything where you have more than one term with varying exponents. Okay? So, let's go ahead, go backwards a little bit here. Let's deal with adding and subtracting these polynomials. When you add and subtract polynomials, everybody, you have to keep in mind what are your like terms and what aren't your like terms, because you're only allowed to add and subtract terms that have the same variable and the same exponent. You are only allowed to add or subtract like terms. Okay? So let's go through a quick example here. All right, remember, there's a couple ways of doing this, and you can write it in different ways. But the first thing is, let's take an example here. Let's go with, we've got this example of, we've got 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. All right, remember to bracket these to make sure that's one polynomial. And I want to add to this. I want to add to this 6x squared minus 1x plus 2. All right. Now I want to do this algebra. So I need to add these two polynomials together. I think a really powerful tool here, guys, is you can actually put this on top of each other. So you could write this as 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. And I'm going to write right below it, matching up like terms. So I've got this like term matches with this 6x squared. Variable and exponent both match. I've got 3x matches with negative 1x. The coefficients don't match, but the x does. I also have this term here. Negative 4 matches with positive 2. So I want to make sure that under each of this, so under the 2x squared goes the 6x squared. So let's write that out as 6x squared. Under the 3x, I'm going to put the negative 1x. And under the negative 4, I'm going to put the positive 2. Now, let's draw a line to say we're going to do some math here, and let's add them together. Okay? This is just a better way of visualizing it, because now you just add vertically. So I'm going to take this 2x, add it to 6x. That gives me 8x squared. I've got this 3x, and I'm going to subtract 1x from it. That is going to give me 2x, and it's going to be positive 2x because the bigger number is positive. Here, the bigger number is negative, so negative 4 plus 2 is going to give me negative 2. So this whole thing is equal to this polynomial. Now, if you guys don't necessarily like this method, by all means, feel free to just take it up here and just add them together. 2x squared plus 6x squared gives you 8x squared. 3x minus 1x gives you 2x. And negative 4 plus 2 gives you negative 2. All right? Guys, this is a great example of visualizing something a little bit differently can make it a lot easier. Okay? Again, if you guys are having trouble with some of the adding and subtracting, feel free to unmute and ask questions, or just put it in your calculator. 6 plus 2 should be 8. 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. All right? From this, everyone, what you should take away from this is, one, the first thing you want to do is pick a term and determine which other terms in that polynomial are like it. Which other terms are the same variable and the same exponent. Then perform that operation. So first thing I'm going to do is say, okay, 2x squared matches with 6x squared. I know I can combine those two. You can write them this way here, or you can keep it like this. That's your call. Okay? But before we end this direct instruction, let's go ahead and do a few more examples. All right? Make sure you're watching this video for examples as you do your independent practice. It's going to be a huge help moving forward. All right? So let's go down. All right, let's say now instead we have negative 2x plus 5 minus 6x minus 2. All right, and I want to do this operation. Now, here you've got a couple of options. You can distribute the negative and make it a positive, or you can go ahead and keep it as this and write it the way we talked about before. So let's go ahead and do it that way, the same way we did this first one. I'm going to write on top the negative 2x plus 5. Now, remember, under this 2x, I got this negative 2x. Let's see what matches with negative 2x. I see that this 6x matches, so let's go ahead and put that 6x under here. And let's go ahead and put the negative 2 under the 5. All right, excuse me, let's go ahead and erase that. This should be negative 2. All right, let's draw our bar, put a subtraction here. All right, now what we could do here is we can go ahead and distribute this negative. So we can rewrite this as negative 2x plus 5 negative 6x. I distribute the negative into the 6x, so negative times a positive is a negative. So it's going to be negative 6x plus 2. Now where I've done this plus 2, I did negative times a negative is a positive. Okay? Now we can draw the bar again, and we can add them together. So what I did is I changed the sign of the negative to a positive and distributed the negative into each one. All right? So let's solve this equation over here. So what's negative 2x plus negative 6x? The signs match, so I know I'm going to have a negative down here. 2 plus 6 should give me 8. And remember, the variable doesn't change. So 2x plus 6x is 8x, keep the negative. All right, now I got 5 plus 2. 5 plus 2 should give you 7. And this whole expression is equal to negative 8x plus 7. All right, this would be the solution to our problem. Okay, this gives us a chance, everyone, it gives us a couple tips and tricks of the trade, right? Some things I did here that might not have been super intuitive is I took this negative and I changed it to a positive by distributing that negative into each one. So I multiplied negative by 6x and the negative by negative 2. That gives me negative 6x plus 2, and now I add them instead of subtracting them. You, by all means, could do negative 2 minus 6x, and it's going to give you the same thing. Or 5 minus negative 2 is again going to give you the same thing. This just writes it in an easier, more simplistic way. Okay? Guys, that's basically all there is to it, to this adding and subtracting polynomials. You pick your like terms. So let's go ahead and write out the steps we did here. All right. The first step we did, 1, is we picked like terms, or let's identify. ID all like terms. 2, the next step we did was we chose whether or not we wanted to write it as one on top of the other or keep it as this kind of longer equation. So let's write step 2 is reorganize. All right, by reorganize, I mean rewrite to make it simplistic. Reorganize operation. 3, all right, add or subtract per the operation they ask, okay? At the end, you can simplify as much as you can, but in this step here is really what we're doing is adding and subtracting, which is simplifying. All right, everybody? From here, you guys are going to move into some independent practice. Remember, if you guys have any questions about this stuff, please unmute and ask, or go ahead and send me an email or a Teams. Thanks, guys. Hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you tomorrow for some multiplying polynomials instead of adding and subtracting. Thanks, everyone.